Welcome to Big Blend Radio's Wine Time with Peggy show, featuring Peggy Fiandaca, who along with her winemaker husband Kurt Lawrence Dunham, owns and operates LDV Winery in Arizona. Happy October, everyone. So excited to have Peggy back here on Big Blend Radio's Wine Time with Peggy show. She has been super busy. Her and Kurt, they just went through harvest season and so much happening. So we're going to find out what the harvest was like from everything I see on social media. And you can follow them at LDV Winery on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and also on YouTube. Go keep up with them there. Of course, go to ldvwinery.com. But there's a lot going on in harvest season. It's October, which means shipping is back on. It's cooler temperatures. Arizona in October is, oh my gosh, one of the best months. So welcome back, Peggy. How are you?
Thank you. I am terrific. I'm happy to be back and happy that it's October and the weather is getting absolutely perfect in Arizona. We're still experiencing some late monsoon weather, so we're getting some rain, which is always exciting to get in Arizona. But yeah, it's terrific. I feel great. Harvest is great. We had a small but mighty harvest. The quality of the grapes were fabulous, so we're excited about the wine we're going to be able to produce. We won't know for sure for a couple years, but yeah, the yield was down a little bit. It was an interesting year.
Yeah, well, the weather has been fluctuating quite a bit, right? Is that influenced that?
Correct. Absolutely. This year it was hot and dry, which was interesting. And actually last year it was hotter. And I don't know if the vines were impacted by last year's heat and they
Oh,
weren't excited about coming out and really producing this year. So the heat, I think, had something to do with it. We also had winds at flowering, so we might have lost some flowers at that time because we get big winds off that mountain and during the growing season. So that might have impacted. But you know what's fascinating this year is we had no bees. Usually we fight bees during harvest because they like to poke holes in all the little grapes and then they start to rot. So we didn't have any bees and we didn't have many birds. So we didn't have any bird damage this year.
wow.
We don't net the field like a lot of wineries do to protect it from the birds, because I just don't want to pick out dead birds out of the netting. So I'd rather say, okay, birds, you get the outer rows and then keep the rest for us. But this year there weren't many
Huh,
birds. So we
yeah.
didn't have bird damage. So I think it's just the interesting weather and the heat and when I say heat, it wasn't like the Phoenix area. Heat for at the vineyard is similar to Napa during
Oh,
the growing season. I think like Temecula gets even hotter than we do during harvest. But for us, we had a few days of over 100 degrees, and
oh,
that's for the
yeah,
vineyard.
normally you're a cooler area because you are in the mountains, and that's something
Correct.
people forget about. Arizona has beautiful, mountains is your backdrop, no matter where you go in Arizona, I think almost there's
Right.
yeah, there is. And it's really, that's a beauty. And we were just drove from Oregon to Texas, and being back in the Southwest and seeing the sunset over mountains, I was like, "Oh, I do miss that." It is
Right.
beautiful. And October is such a cool month to see the sunrise and sunset. It's extra special, you know? Yeah.
Yes. It really is. People don't, they think we live in the desert and we don't experience four seasons. We don't see the changes. But if you're a native or if you've lived here as long as I have, over 50 years, your body and you see the changes in the environment when it goes from summer to fall.
Oh,
And
yeah,
it's
you
not
feel that.
you feel it, you smell it, the air changes, even though maybe the temperatures are still high, but there is that slight change. Certain plants start to bloom that don't bloom other times of the year, but in the fall. And of course, at the vineyard, all of the vines are turning colors. So,
Ah,
they're getting ready for dormancy and so and we haven't had a frost, so they're turning different, oranges and different greens and reds and that type of thing. So we're getting the fall
Oh, pretty.
colors starting in the vineyard as they go to dormant, which happens usually in November.
I
In
always look at the
November.
cactus too, like the ocotillos start, if you have good rain. And it's interesting too, when you're talking about feeling the seasons, when monsoons don't happen, even though we have air conditionings as humans, right? You start to feel like the plants and animals, like your body
Right,
wants the monsoon. I can't even explain it,
right.
but you're just like, it's got to rain. I want even
Yes,
just for 1 second, do it.
right,
Turn the faucet
right.
on, that
Exactly.
it's weird because we do have AC to keep us cool and all those creature comforts, but you start to get that feeling. But I love the desert in fall because like some of the barrel cactus, their seed pods are that yellow color. So
Right.
and then we have like the brittle bush and the marigolds and all of those desert marigolds are just and the sages all come out. And so there is fall colors, but people
Yeah,
just don't really realize it unless you live there. You're right. I love fall in the desert. It's like, and it's such a good time to get outside and have a wine
absolutely.
picnic. Go hike and have a wine
Absolutely.
picnic. Yes. Yes.
Exactly.
Speaking of temperature, so shipping is back on in October, right? As long as the
Shipping's back
temperatures stay
on.
nice. Yeah.
So we watched the temperature. So we had this great sale on a case of wine, and for those listeners who hear this podcast and call and order some of that sale wine, I'll extend that sale to mid-October. Just mention this podcast, and it's
Okay.
just an incredible sale. We'll be able to ship wine all over the country. There's select bottles of wine like our 2019 Viognier, our Sky Island Grenache, and 2017 Grenache, the Sky Island Petit Syrah, or the 16 Petit Syrah, which are all fabulous wines. And 50% off. You can't beat that. But you can
Wow.
mix and match a case. Just mention this podcast when you
Say wine
call.
time with Peggy.
Wine time with Peggy. I'll give you that 50% off all the way through the middle of October. And we can ship
Cool.
you some wine so you have it for Thanksgiving and the holidays.
Yeah, that is awesome. That is awesome. I think a lot of people get excited because I know when we get towards May, you're like, y'all, you better start. You don't say y'all though, but we're in
Yeah.
Texas today, so I can. I don't know what happens as soon as I get this way, this accent changes. But y'all, you always say, get your orders in because May through
Right.
summer, it's too hot to ship wine and we don't want spoilage, not with this quality wine. None of that.
Right.
So this is
Right.
exciting. So a lot going on in the tasting room. I see you've been doing winemaker dinners and all kinds of events. Is that happening through October?
Yeah, we have one in October, a winemaker dinner, and we're going to celebrate fall flavors. A lot of the things I'll talk about today about spices, I'm sure we'll incorporate into the meal. I haven't set the menu for that dinner. We also have a winemaker talk with Kurt this
Hmm.
month, and we're going to do a blind wine tasting, which is always fun. So people can try to guess which ones are LDV wines and which ones are from elsewhere around the world. And Kurt's going
Oh,
to do a harvest recap. And that's always fun. It's great for our wine club members, but it's open to the public too. So just register for that. And
cool.
what's fun about October starts the festival season, and we are right on the plaza in Old Town Scottsdale. And there's an Italian festival coming up. There's an art and wine festival coming up right outside our door, on the plaza. So there's so much to get out and about and do in Old
Mm.
Town Scottsdale at the tasting room.
That's exciting.
Mm,
Yeah, again, it's a beautiful time of year to be out and about, short sleeve weather, which from living in Chicago, right? That short
right.
sleeve weather is not happening in October.
Yes.
Maybe some odd days you'll get in there because, things happen with our weather and changes, but this is a beautiful, beautiful time of year. Is Kurt relaxing now after all the harvest? Is this a good time frame for him to sit back and enjoy his wine that he that he makes?
As he's recovering, just like the work kind of shifts from the vineyard. You know, in October, we're doing the last of the nutrients before the vines go dormant. We put nutrients in like organic fertilizer on the soils and nitrogen we have to add to the soils before they go dormant in November. But all the work shifts to the winery and it's basically ketchup, since we
Mhm.
were so busy during harvest. So we're reconditioning all the equipment because we put a lot of the equipment away for the winter. So we recondition all that before we put that away. We're also doing racking. I think I've explained that many times. That's the way we help clarify the wine. And so the 2025 wine or the grapes that we harvested and fermented will rack those. So they're getting their first and second racking. And what we do when we rack is we're removing the sediment from in any material that might still be left in that juice out of it and topping it off. So those wines are getting ready to be then barreled here
Mhm.
soon. But we're still working on the 2025 and then catching up on some of the older vintages that are still in barrels. We have to rack those. We do that every 45 days. So
Well,
it's a lot of work and that's happening in the winery. But yeah, so it's a different kind of work than
yeah,
the hard work of harvesting.
yeah. Wow. Wow. So much goes into this. And okay, so today our main theme is wine and spice makes everything nice. Sorry.
Exactly.
Does.
I love it.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, we say, here at Big Blend, our whole thing is Viva Variety. Variety is the spice that adds quality to life. And if you have wine and spice, you really have quality in life. And I'm excited about this. I know your term of the month even has to deal with this, right?
Right. I thought, a lot of people pick up spice when they taste wine. And so I wanted to kind of explain where that spiciness might be coming from in wine. You might capture some spiciness, which hits you a lot of times on the back of your throat or when you finish, but it can come from the grape variety. There's certain grape varieties that actually have that a natural compound of spiciness as part of it. Like a Syrah is a perfect
Mhm.
example that most Syrahs or Shiraz, depending on where you're from, have that
I'm in
cumin.
Australia today. I'm gonna say Shiraz.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So it has that black pepper finish to it.
Yeah.
Other common spicy flavors you might pick up in your wine are cloves or cinnamon, potentially. Besides, the Gewürztraminer, which is a white wine, that has a spiciness to it. But it can also, so it can be the grape variety or it can be the oak that
Mhm.
the wine might be aged and might be imparting some of that
Mhm.
oak or that spiciness. So American oak, which we use a lot of, imparts
Mhm.
more spice than like a French oak barrel does. And actually, it probably imparts more herbs than spices, but can. A lot of times, American oak puts off dill, which is more of an herb than a spice. And, but you could get some cinnamon notes or black pepper notes from an American oak.
Yeah, black pepper, I've had that a lot. And then the other one is tobacco. Would you put that as a spice?
I wouldn't put it as a spice necessarily. I don't think so, but that's
She puts it in the
mm,
vice category.
exactly. But
Yeah.
French oak, kind of, you get the brown sugar and vanilla, not so much of the spiciness from it. And then, the aging process can add some of the spiciness to your wines. And then also your soil, depending on where the grapes are grown can add some of that spiciness to the wine based on the terroir of where the grapes were grown. So it's kind of fun, but red wines, Syrah, Zinfandel, Mourvedre, Petit Syrah will all have usually spicy notes to it. And then Gewürztraminer has that spicy,
Mhm.
perfumey kind of notes
Kick.
to it. Yeah,
Still got a kick.
Riesling. Sometimes Viognier has a spiciness to it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, it's fun, and I think spicy can be a sensation. You can feel it in your
Mhm.
mouth. And like I said, in the finish, a lot of times that spiciness might show up, or in the aroma. You might smell a bit of spiciness, or and then in the initial taste too, you could possibly get it. Cloves,
Mhm.
nutmeg, ginger, those are all common associated with a wine's profile
Mhm.
also. So, yeah, I think it adds some
It's fun.
complexity and
Yeah.
fun.
That's Nancy's thing that she loves to find that peppery on the back end, but I'm a little different. I want to go in and let it be. Like that's her treasure
Right.
hunt. Mine is, I want to see, are there different treasures in there? And I
Right.
know that my thing with Syrah or Shiraz is part of the pepper, right? Because I love that spice all the time. Even cantaloupe, I eat cantaloupe with black pepper on it because
Right.
of the
Oh,
spice.
yum.
So,
A lot with that spiciness also makes the wine really pair well with food. And that's why like a Syrah
oh,
or a Petite Syrah, because of that black pepper, that spiciness goes great with food. It's fun. And so you want to match some of those spices with the foods that you're going to pair with.
so like sausage, a
Yeah.
spicy sausage with the Syrah is good.
Right. Perfect, perfect. Italian sausage with Syrah. Oh yeah, that's a
Mm,
like I've always said, Syrah is our go-to pizza wine. With pepperoni or sausage on your pizza. Yum,
cool.
yum, yum, yum. So, do you happen to know what the number one spice in the world is?
I'm going to say cinnamon.
Interesting. Good question. Good answer. But that's the oldest known spice is cinnamon.
Okay.
And it predated recorded history. And I guess it was used in early Egyptian embalming, cinnamon was. But the
Oh, I
number
didn't know
one
that.
spice in the world is black pepper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oof. I love my black pepper. It's okay. Now I'm going to get weird on you because I
Okay.
know I remember I was doing a recording with Donna, the owner of the Peanut Patch down in Yuma, Arizona, and they have medjool dates. And
Right.
then she sells like the best licorice in the world, right? And I remember we were in between recordings and I'm like, I got into this whole thing on I want biblical charcuterie boards with honey and dates and pomegranates. And I don't know where I was going with this, but I just felt like wine is such an ancient juice drink
Uh-huh.
that, in the biblical times, I wonder if they were making charcuterie boards with these kinds of things and dates. And I just think medjool dates should be part of it. And they're
Everything.
royal, you know?
Yeah.
And so, and then I remember emailing you and we were talking. I'm like, well, I'm going to email Peggy right now. Urgent, Peggy. Put that little, this is urgent. What do we pair wines with, right? So licorice. So I'm getting to a point. It doesn't make sense now, but there's black and red pepper, right?
Pink,
Peppercorns.
pink,
Yes.
white peppercorns.
Yeah. These different colors. And they do have a different taste. So
Absolutely.
just like licorice, the red licorice and the black licorice almost represent the different taste that you will have with these peppercorns. I know this sounds weird, so if you pair, and you did pair wine for medjool dates and licorice, you were awesome. I couldn't believe that. So listen for that in November. I think it was
Yeah.
a November episode. Because one I was like, I'm going to call Peggy. And then the next episode we went to record, there you were. I was like, this is awesome. But do you think, I mean, that flavor change is very subtle for the pepper,
Very.
but on licorice, it's complete. It's almost like strawberry and vanilla or chocolate, two
Right.
different things. But wine pairing with the licorice, because licorice is also a spice that people use, more
Yeah. And
fennel kind of anise thing, right?
right. And you pick that up in different wines, that licorice kind of flavor in some wines. You can pick it up in a Petite Syrah at times, that black licorice taste or anise taste in it. And some people love that, and then others are kind of turned on off that. But I think it adds an interesting layer of complexity to big, bold reds wines. So,
Mm.
yeah, no, it's exciting.
And you can use licorice sticks as straws for champagne.
That's what you said. I still have not tried that. That's
You got
awesome.
it.
Yeah, I gotta try that. That's
Okay,
awesome.
I know. You see, I'm sorry. I get off on that's my spices and my whatever. That's my thing. But yeah, so for actually picking, so when you're choosing your spice, you got to look at what the spice in the wine to match with the
Absolutely.
spice in the food.
Yeah, I think it accentuates
That's yeah.
when you try to do that. And there's different ways to use spices when you're cooking to really ensure that the spices are come out in the food too. Spices are different than herbs. Spices are the dried parts of a plant, and they're typically added for flavor, texture, or aromas. They can be the bark of the tree or the root or the seed pod. They can come from the actual fruit or the flower. Like the most expensive spice, which what do you think that is?
Saffron.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I
And
got I'm getting there. I'm going to get wine after this.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love saffron. That's one of my favorites. You know, you can't have a great risotto without saffron in it. It's
Well, my
wonderful.
friend went to Morocco and she came back with saffron and she was like, "This is like gold." And she gave
Yes.
us some saffron and she looks at me and she's like, "Do not use this as you put how you." She's seen me cook with chili and she's like,
Uh-huh.
"Don't do that. Do not do this. You just need a
Yeah.
teeny bit. It is the taste of gold."
It is. It is. I would agree with that. I love it. Yeah.
Mm,
You
mm,
know, I'm sure you have your favorite spices. I do too. And you know, of course, being Italian, oregano is on the top of my list of favorite spices that I use on a regular
mm,
basis for all different kinds of cuisine. You know, and what's unique about I think spices is you can have oregano is a perfect example. You can have Greek oregano, Italian oregano, and Mexican oregano, and each one of them impart a different flavor to whatever dish. You know, I think Mexican oregano is, I think it's from the verbena plant
uh-huh,
or family, and it's more citrusy. It's a
uh-huh.
brighter kind of flavor, and it has that licorice that you like. So it has a
See?
little bit of that in it. So it's a little bit more earthy and pungent compared to Italian oregano, which I use a lot. It actually comes from the mint family, believe it or not.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. That makes
It
sense.
because
Yeah.
it's more floral, it has more of a
Mhm.
floral, it's earthy, um, and it has that maybe a little more slightly bitter
Mhm.
compared to the Mexican oregano, and I think Greek oregano, which is another common oregano that people use, is more like an Italian oregano, but I use all 3, and I use them differently depending on if I'm doing Mexican foods or
Mm,
moles or something like that, I'm gonna use a Mexican
mm,
oregano and not an Italian oregano. But,
hmm.
so
I've
yeah, that's one.
never even thought of doing it by that at all. You know, you just see oregano. Okay, so now that's my new thing.
Yeah, and, so we grow oregano, Italian oregano. Sweet basil, of course, is another one of my top favorites, and for the average cook that, is going to make homemade things, these are, I think, spices that you can keep on
Mm,
hand, and if you have them around, you're gonna use them more. Rosemary is another one that I use a lot. I love rosemary. We grow a lot of rosemary, so, I mean, you can use it in all different ways from focaccia bread to
mm.
lamb
Oh,
and all kinds of ways. But I also love thyme. A lot of people forget about thyme, but man, it adds a lot of flavor to potatoes, to sauces, to
mm.
chicken, to wonderful on different kinds of fish. Just love it. It adds, you know, it's very, I don't know, it's
It's gardeny.
yeah, it is. We grow it in our garden. We love it. The other top of my list, I love tarragon, and
Yeah.
it's used a lot in French cooking. It adds a little bit of bittersweet, and I think it's one of those that people either love or they don't. I love it.
Do you put it
It's
in hollandaise sauce?
I do more of béarnaise sauce with
Okay.
tarragon. I don't put it in my hollandaise, but it's wonderful on fish on its own or making a
Mm.
compound butter with tarragon and then stuffing it into chicken under the breast is absolutely
Are you trying to
phenomenal.
like get me really hungry?
Of
I
course, of
am.
course.
I'm like now I'm thinking I gotta get like cooking, like not just grab something cooking today. Hey.
Exactly. Of course, you can't, in my opinion, you can't have a top 10 of spices without red pepper flakes. I use
Hmm.
them all the time, and I think I like them better because they're a little bit more fruitier and they're not as hot as like adding cayenne pepper or anything
Oh yeah.
to it. You know, it's a little bit less where cayenne might be a 10 and red pepper flakes might be a 7 or so. So it's just wonderful. You know, Also, I use marjoram. That's like one of those
Oh, yeah.
herbs that a lot of people don't use, and they should try to cook with that. I think sometimes called the wild oregano. So it plays nice with oregano, particularly Italian
Mm.
oregano or Greek oregano. And I can't have a kitchen without herbs de Provence, which is more of a spice blend than
Hmm.
it is a spice. So in herbs de Provence, you might find rosemary and fennel and oregano and dill and marjoram, lavender, basil,
So
and
it's like a
chervil.
French garam masala.
Exactly, exactly. And we use herb de Provence to marinate our lamb, and it's
Mm.
just incredible. What are my other
Yeah.
favorites? Sage, of
Oh,
course.
yeah. For
Sage,
fall. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it doesn't have to be just for the stuffing on your turkey. You know, there's so many different ways you can use sage and add
And
it to
butter in the
wonderful.
butter. That
Exactly.
is good.
Compound
Ooh.
butter. Yep. Making it butter. But yeah, and think about cinnamon. I mean, that's
Mm.
a spice that both can be sweet, but also can be used savory. A lot of African dishes use
Mhm.
cinnamon. And so experiment with that. I love it with a little sugar on my toast, but you do more with cinnamon than
Oh, I
just
do.
in a sweet and with apples or something or applesauce.
Yeah, I used to make toast like that with a little bit of clove too.
Cloves, wonderful. Yep.
Mm.
Chili powder, of course, I have to always I use that in so many
That's
different ways.
everything. That is like,
Yep.
okay, I've got a secret spice mix for chili for
Okay.
making chili. That's probably the best dish I make is chili. And then you can do it with different meats or whatever you want. If you want to do, mincemeat or what do you call it? Ground beef here. You can do that. So normally you saute. So I'll do it in a slow cooker for all day long. Like if it goes like from 5 in the morning, it's great. And there's different, like whatever, put the kitchen sink in, right? It's
Yep.
chili.
Yep.
So if
Yep.
you've
Yep.
got things going like, oh, bell peppers, you can, saute that with the meat first, right? Onions, if you've got garlic, just bring it. Just put it,
Yep.
shove it all in there. Even a little bit of celery, all of that. I saute that first. Now the spice and oregano you cannot make chili without oregano. It is just
Right.
a no-no. My thing is cumin is
Yes.
the thing that binds, and the oregano binds everything together. And so I do chili powders that are different. There's like different colors. Just look at
Yep.
the rainbow. And then I put in not too much. So chili is the main thing. And you can have different peppers inside the chili itself. But like a nice dark chili, paprika has to be in there.
Yes.
Cumin
Paprika. Yep.
is cumin is if you do not have cumin and oregano in the chili, it is not chili. The cumin is crucial. It is the babe that is the mama. And everyone thinks it's the chili, of course it is, but this is the mama. And then you add in curry powder. You must
Oh,
have the
wow.
curry powder in there, and it just adds this one. Maybe it's because of growing up in Africa that everything has curry more than it has chili. So, and then Nancy being American, she was always like chili, chili, and actually had a hard time in places getting chili because most of it was more on the curry side than
Right.
the chili. But yeah. So those you've got to have the paprika. You've got to, if I've made chili without cumin, and I'm telling you, do not do it. Cumin, oregano, chili, as many different chilies as you want. You can put red pepper, cayenne pepper if you want, depending on who you're serving to. And you can put in vegetables like potatoes and carrots, whatever, to kind of even it out too. But anyway, I want to make chili now.
Yes,
And then I
exactly.
make, instead of tortillas, I make chapatis. And then I make like a guac.
Those are. I don't know what
It's
those are.
leavened bread. So it's made in mostly Indian food. It's leavened bread. And then it's like a thick tortilla
Oh,
made with
wow.
white. Oh my gosh. And it is, and it's a little chew to it. And then I would layer meat like beans, guacamole, or just avocados. Yeah, now I'm getting it's next time I see you, I'm making you like the African chili with chapatis. And
So this October is our wine club pickup party. And so at the tasting room, we always invite everyone in to pick up their wine and taste the new wines. But I'm doing a chili table. So people can add all their own accoutrements to their chili and pair it with our wines. So it should be fun.
Ooh, and cornbread is good too. If you've got it a
Of
little hot, if your
course.
chili's a little hot, put that cornbread in there.
Yeah,
And if you
exactly.
put potato, a potato will soak up, like you've done too much salt, a potato will soak it up, I believe.
Sure. I
Yep.
agree. I agree. So yeah,
Oh, I'm
I'm
hungry.
excited to try all kinds of spices.
What wine goes with the chili, do you think? What would be like I'm going Syrah because that's just my baby, but
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
The petite Syrah, because
Mm,
we'll make it pretty spicy. So and we'll do a vegetarian chili as well as a regular meat chili. But yeah, so
mm,
petite Syrah, any of our petite Syrahs will go great. The Syrah will go great. Even
mm.
our RED, which is our red blend, because it does have quite a bit of petite Syrah in it, it'll go well too. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned, the wine, the wine club pickup, you know. So this is a good time because I'm thinking this is a good holiday gift, you
Oh
know.
my
The
gosh, yeah.
taste of Arizona wine, which is fabulous wine, you know. So the holiday season is on. You can get things shipped to you. You've got the special for, up until mid-October. All right. So
Only
the
for
50%,
listeners.
just say podcast, Peggy, Wine Time with Peggy, just say podcast, whatever. You're going to get that 50% off. But I want to go back to that. Tell everybody about the wine club itself because we don't always talk about that.
Absolutely. So we have several different levels you can
Mm.
join our wine club, and it gives you variety of different discounts on the wine. So we have a pinnacle level, which is 12 bottles twice a year. In the spring in March and in October, we do shipping all over the country. For those local to Arizona, we have a pickup party and people come in and they taste the wine. And you get 20% discount of your wines. And we have, since people are all over the country and we ship to them, so we have reduced rates for shipping because you don't get to come in all the time to
Yeah.
have your free tastings and
Oh,
things like that. So we reduce the shipping price. And then we have a 6 bottle twice a year, which is our summit membership, and you get 15% discount. And then we have a more of a local club, which is 3 times per year, and it's 3 bottles. And so they can come in the summertime for a pickup party and pick up their wines and try new ones. And every
cool.
packet has original recipes to go with the wines as well as a
Oh,
newsletter. And I mean, if you're
cool.
here locally, you can attend the winemaker talks monthly for free. And of course, we have food and those, and you get reduced rates for all of our events and stuff. So yeah, it's a
That's
fun
cool.
club. You can tailor your wines somewhat. So some people don't like whites and they want all reds, or they prefer all petite sirah, whatever it might be. You just let me know and we'll take care of you. And it's fun for us to get notes at Thanksgiving, and people are pouring our wines in Boston and San Francisco and New Mexico and all over the country. I'm getting pictures and texts that people are enjoying our wines on their holiday tables. So it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think it makes a great gift,
Yes, it does.
But
And I
that's
have you can download my gift guide. It's on the website, give you some ideas on packaging and what we could do for you in terms of the gifts. And when
oh,
you call, yeah, when you call, you talk directly with me and I will
see,
put together a
you can
package.
have your own wine time with Peggy, not just me.
Exactly. Exactly. If you're calling LDB, I'm picking up the phones.
Awesome. Now I want to go also over to your recipe of the month, which is exciting because we're talking cookies, y'all. Cookies. Cookie
For some
season.
reason, I know for some reason, the fall, I think about cookies and wanting to make
Isn't it cookie month? I think every
maybe.
month is
uh,
cookie. Maybe
Yeah,
it
I think
is.
it might be. I think that's
Well, it
maybe
is for
why.
me, even
Okay,
if
there
it's
we
not.
go. And what could be better than a cookie that's made with red wine, right?
Oh, wow. And chocolate.
And and chocolate and cherries. So this is to
That's
me
like
is
a
like
decadence. That's decadent.
right, and it's a perfect pairing with Syrah, which is your favorite, because it picks out the cherry notes of the Syrah and, of course, the spice, of course. So this is kind of it's a dark chocolate that you want to use for this. takes about 2 cups of dry white wine. So if you're not using our Syrah or a Syrah, make sure it's a dry red wine that you're going to use. And it's a typical cookie recipe with semi-sweet or darker chocolates in it, and dried cherries I use, about a half a cup of dried cherries, just kind of rough chop them. And it doesn't call for it, but you might even, before you put it in the oven, put your thumbprint on the top and put a maraschino cherry on top so people know that there's
Oh,
cherry in it. And I also, it asks for vanilla, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, or yeah, teaspoons, I guess it is. But I would do 1 teaspoon of vanilla and 1 teaspoon of cherry extract, again, to have even more of that
mm.
cherry flavor in these cookies. Because I don't think there's nothing better than dark chocolate and cherry, in my
Oh,
opinion. I think it's just awesome.
ooh. Oh, dark chocolate and orange. I'm a sucker
Oh,
for
that
that.
too. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's like in the holiday season when they have those chocolate oranges. I'm
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
yes, yes, dark chocolate and orange and wine. You
Yeah.
know, that
Yeah.
yep, that's
Can't
what
beat
would you
it.
do with ginger?
With ginger, I cook with it all the time.
Yeah, what would because like we're getting in the season of gingerbread houses in November. I know we'll go there,
Right.
but
Right.
ginger snap cookies and peanut butter and ginger cookies with a
Oh
crunch.
gosh.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, yes. I'm back to the peanuts again. So yeah, how would
Added
you pair? Oh, how would you?
added it to I'm going to make some zucchini bread. Of course I use cinnamon, but I think I ginger would be a little of ginger added to
Oh,
it would be awesome.
add ginger to the chili too.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
forgot that.
I cook
Yep.
with ginger all the time because I do a lot of Asian foods,
Mhm.
and I use a lot of fresh ginger primarily in my
Mm.
Asian foods, but yeah, I love ginger.
I make ginger tea, just
Yeah.
fresh ginger and
Uh-huh.
honey.
Uh-huh.
And it's really good this time of year as people start getting the sniffles. Like I got the
Yeah.
sniffles, so I'm gonna get
Yeah.
some ginger, but it's really good. And if you want to spike it up a little bit, you can. A little bit of bourbon in
Yes.
there will make
Okay.
everything happy.
Everything good.
Listen, we do not celebrate sober October around here. It's not
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that's like that's a battle.
Exactly.
That's not a
You know
holiday, you know.
and before we leave this topic of spices, make sure that you rotate your spices. Some people have spices that they've had for 10 years. No, you got to toss them away. They just will not impart the flavors that
Mm.
you want in your meal if they're old. Store them correctly by keeping the spices in a dark, dry area, like if you have a pantry or in your cabinet. Don't store them, as we said earlier, by your stove or by
And
any.
don't store your wine there either.
Yeah. I always take my spices, I buy in bulk because I use my spices. And so they don't ever get old, but because we cook all the time. So I keep them in an airtight container marked, with a
Mm.
date on them so I understand how old they might be. And never by the stove. Don't put them by the stove or any heat or moisture.
Yeah.
Arizona, we don't have to worry about the moisture, but in most places, you have to worry about the moisture with fresh
Mm.
to keep your spices fresh. Yeah,
Good point.
don't buy in huge quantities unless you're going to use them like we do. So stay
Mm.
away from Costco huge containers unless you're really going to use the spices and
Mm.
turn them over quickly.
If it's chili, go for the
Yeah,
big one.
go for it. Go
Always
for
for
it.
the big one. I love it.
Yeah.
And everyone, Peggy's recipe is linked in the episode notes, so check that out. Before you go, I did want to bring up one spice that we didn't touch on, and it is allspice because that can go any
Allspice.
way. It could go sweet, savory. It could go on meat dishes, right? I think
Yeah.
I swear I've had like a spicy
Stews.
bourbon kind. Oh yeah.
Stews, it goes great with, of course, I add a little bit of it into my apple pies. I love it in that. You can put them into like that zucchini bread that I was talking about earlier.
Oh yeah.
Winter vegetables, squashes, when you're making squashes or some kind of a sweet potato dish, allspice is a wonderful, just like cloves, are a wonderful addition to them that add that layer of flavor that you don't always get that make it, keep people guessing. What is that? I'm picking up something unusual. It's probably the allspice. Marjoram does that also to dishes.
Yeah.
People can't figure out exactly what that extra is in it. So yeah, use it.
Awesome. Everyone, ldvwinery.com. Don't forget the passcode, the
Yeah.
password. This is a good password. This is not one of those you want to forget. Is podcast, Wine Time with Peggy podcast. So
Yeah.
just give her a call and have your own Wine Time with Peggy. And cheers to everyone. Here's to fall, y'all. Thank you so much, Peggy.
Thank you. Loved it.
Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio's Wine Time with Peggy show. Keep up with LDV Winery at ldvwinery.com. Keep up with Big Blend Radio at bigblendradio.com.